Good afternoon. It's noon on Monday, the 13th of April, and I'm delighted to have a full house here. You can see their names, bottom left-hand corner of each of their screens. But I'm going to hand over to Beth. We're talking about saggy middles today. And having been on a healthy, I don't like to say diet, healthy eating plan for the last 6 months, I'm delighted to say my middle is less saggy than it was 6 months ago. But we are talking about writing. So I'm going to hand over to Beth, who will introduce herself and say what she writes, and then we will go alphabetically. And then I'll throw over a question, and then we'll a bit of a very polite and restrained free-for-all thereafter. Okay. Good morning, Beth.
Good morning, Morgan. Thank you for having me on a panel again.
You're very welcome.
My name is BB Elsin. I'm the author of Heroes and Traitors, which is a historical fantasy. I'm also the author of Coffee and Commute, which is an anthology of short stories and poems for mindful reading. And it's kind of two ends of the spectrum because with short pieces of work, obviously you want no sagginess at all in the middle or anywhere really. It's got to be really tight prose and keep the reader's attention all the way through. The fantasy books can be quite long, and I think sometimes you get immersed in the world and it can go off at tangents, and it's not so much of an issue because it's all part of enjoying being in fantasy. Um, so I know publishers are very intolerant of saggy or soggy middles. As a reader, I am reasonably okay with the story going off at tangents from time to time in the middle. If I've kind of got a clear impression in the beginning. I know it's going to go somewhere. So, like all journeys, sometimes we have a few detours.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I wonder about poetry. I will get to David in a second, but it just while the question's in my brain, is there any kind of form? Obviously, there's a beginning and an end to poetry, but is there a middle as such, or does it tend to just sort of flow?
Well, haiku's an interesting and extreme example because it goes 5 7 5. So your beginning is 5 syllables, your middle is 7 syllables, so you've got
Mm,
more room to say something about the moment you're trying to capture, and then you conclude with 5 syllables that say exactly what feeling you got.
mm. Okay, thank you, David. A lover of poetry.
Yeah.
Do tell us all about you
Oh, I
and
see.
your writing and
Yes, I'm not used to doing things in alphabetical order by first name.
oh, okay. We
I
can
went
leave
to
you
one of
till
those.
last.
No. I went to one of those schools where you were just called Wake all the time.
Oh,
Um, I'm a novelist. I've done 16 novels of science fiction, fantasy, comedy, cozy mystery, something set in samurai Japan. So haikus are very much a thing, and it's interesting in a haiku. The middle is slightly longer than the beginning and the end, which I think is very telling, um, in a sense, because the middles are always will tend to end up being longer than the beginning and the end.
mm,
Um, so that would be my take on it.
right. And you have a claim to fame, which has been mentioned in these before,
Yeah.
um, that you invented a form of writing, which I love writing.
Yes, for my sins, have invented a literary form, the drabble, which is stories of exactly 100 words. So I
Which,
suppose a drabble's middle should be exactly 50 words long.
yeah, yes,
Yeah,
or the 50th, yes.
yeah.
49th to the 51st word, I suppose.
No, the 26th to the 75th.
Yes, middle third.
Got to think about it.
Yeah. You wouldn't think 100 words would be that complicated. I love doing them. I mentioned this when you first said about you coming up with a drabble, that I'd written a 100-word drabble surrounding about Margaret Drabble trying to write a 100-word drabble.
Yeah, and I had to correct your origin story.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yes. Jill, welcome. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me again.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, my name's Jill. I write crime thrillers with kind of love interest interwoven with them, and I'm doing a series, or I started doing a series. So I brought out one called Avalon Sky in October, and I'm just kind of editing the next one now. And the previous one to that is kind of the origin story, so it's a bit different. But yeah, so I think I hadn't really thought about saggy middles until you emailed and said that's what you were going to discuss. But I do kind of have a structure. I don't really plan the whole plot in advance, but retrospectively, as I go along, I put the chapter numbers and roughly a synopsis of what's in them, just like a one-line synopsis on a spreadsheet. And then what I do, I make bold and in red whatever is action, and in a purple if there's some kind of strong emotional scene or something like that. And then when I look at it at the end, I can see if there's a gap where there's literally nothing. I mean, I have another color for sort of mystery or unraveling of mystery or something. So I can see whether there's a gap where it's, I think, well, is there nothing that's of interest in that at all? And so I think it does actually, although it sounds a bit arbitrary, it does kind of give me a clue as to where things need tightening up, because it's like 3 chapters that are not really going anywhere or doing anything that's useful. Right. So I suppose that's my only strategy if I have one.
No, that's a great idea. I love that. I'm a bit of a nerd. To ask me to do something and it'll end up being an Excel spreadsheet. And so I love the idea of colouring, because I do, when I do mentoring, I have a husband and wife, and neither of them particularly want to plan. And so I say, well, if you just write down a few, what you've got in your head now and who your characters are, and plan and write a journey for each character. So what are they going, if you know, the start, middle and end. And so I like the fact that you've taken out certain aspects and can see from a glance what,
I mean, to be fair, it's
working and not working.
It's not, I don't know. Yeah. Well, I try to plan what the character's going to do, but then they normally go off and do something different. So yeah, I can't really plan it more than 2 or 3 chapters ahead.
No.
I
would also
know what the relationship's going to do, but not what the plot's going to do. So,
yeah.
I would also suggest that using a spreadsheet and color coding things is a good idea, particularly if you've got multiple points of view character, because then you can just sort of step back from it, see it from a distance, and go, well, there's a lot of red here, but the blue character's getting nothing to do, and so on down the thing.
And if you want something doing, David will create an Excel program for it.
Well, yes. Well, we could both do it, couldn't we?
Okay. Well, you're better at the programming side of me. I'm all right with the basic stuff, tabs and filters and repetition. If you've got more than one, something duplicated.
That's my level. Tabs, filters.
Oh, repetition. Is it? Okay.
In fact, probably ahead of me. I manually color code it. I do conditional formatting. I do conditional formatting.
Okay, I do some, but yeah. Anyhow, we could have another conversation about Excel. I'll add that to the TNTs. Who is an Excel nerd? Karl, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are we?
We're well, thank you. I think I'm going to speak for... Oh, Meriet's not so well.
Oh.
We shall find out maybe in a moment.
Okay.
Karl, do tell us about you and your writing, because again, you're multi-genre, multi-format.
Yeah, I've done 3 novels today. The first 2 were 2-book series, and they were sports thrillers. And then the third one that I've not long released, Bobby, was a suspense thriller. So I suppose the reoccurring genre is thriller. I've also done 2 collections of poetry. And I'm currently working on my next project, which isn't a thriller. It's actually going to be an historical fiction piece.
Oh, great.
And my interest in doing this panel is not so much as a reader within Saggy Middle. It's actually as a writer,
Mm.
and it's that I tend to, I suppose, lose hope during the middle. I kind of have this relationship where the first 20, 30,000 words is all very exciting because it's a new project.
Yeah.
And then I get to the last 20 or 30,000 words and it's exciting because I can see the end line and I know the editing's coming and I can polish it and get it ready for release. But I always struggle with the middle bit a little bit. I find myself lagging and getting a bit lethargic around the middle part of writing the novel.
Mm. So how do you get it? Do you have a way of getting out of that, or you just
perseverance, pure perseverance. If I have to do a few hundred words a day, I do a few hundred words a day. If I get a few thousand, I get a few thousand.
Yeah.
And it's just keep showing up and just keep plugging away at it, and eventually you'll see the finish line pop up before you, and you'll get all excited again and start that sprint towards the end.
Do you write
It
chronologically?
can feel never ending at times.
Yeah. Do you write chronologically? Do you write as in from the beginning to the end?
Yeah, I'm very
Right.
much a pantser, so yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I wonder whether if you've got the end in mind, almost skipping the middle and coming back to that because you've written the end, whether
Possibly,
that would make it easier.
possibly, but the way it's tended to be at the minute is my idea of the end is very vague. So
Right.
I find that I have to write through the middle section to kind of
Oh,
like, for example, I'll know an event that's going to happen for the end, but I won't necessarily know how we get there
mm,
or why we get there. And right in the middle is then necessary to fill in that gap. So yeah, that I don't really think that would work.
but I think the editing process, I mean, it looks as if you enjoy it. The editing process, once you've been through it, you can then tighten up the saggy middle.
Yeah, I do. I enjoy the editing in that sense, the developmental editing stage, I suppose, because yeah, I'll be able to recognise then where there's bits missing that need adding or just polish it to make it a better story. Sometimes when I'm writing the first draft, I won't necessarily feel sections are strong, but then when I've got the whole picture, I can refine it and then I feel a bit more confident about it.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea.
People say writing is rewriting, isn't it? Or rewriting is writing.
Exactly.
And also, I think another point to make is every writer I've met has a tick or a problem. So Karl is mentioning he hits saggy middle issues.
Right.
About 3/4 of the way through, I get into a complete mess. That's my particular glitch. I know another writer who has real problems around the 10,000 word mark.
Okay.
Gets stuck there.
Wow.
I think we all have these issues, and particularly if you're doing a first novel, when you hit your issue, it seems like the end of the world. You know, I'm never going to actually fix this or whatever. But when you've done, I don't know, half a dozen novels or something, you say, "Oh, I'm stuck in this point again." You know where we are.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think though you can use, certainly with me, I was doing a course which was starting your novel, and I got to a certain stage. There was a follow-on in 6 months' time, which was finishing your novel, and I thought I've just got to get through this. I cannot waste the time and money I've invested into starting. And in order to get my time and money's worth out of the ending, I'm going to have to persevere month after month and get something written.
It
So
sounded
I
like
agree with Karl about perseverance, but also, of course, you can set yourself milestones. And, even if it's just, I've now done chapter 4, I've now done chapter 5. Um, I think, yeah, it's probably the hardest stage, but you can still put something into every chapter that you feel was worth writing.
Interesting.
If you had a starting a novel and an ending a novel, it sounds like you needed a course in the middle for continuing with your novel.
Yes.
Interestingly enough,
that was the missing link.
Yeah.
interestingly enough, I don't tend to write in chapters. When I'm doing my first draft, I tend to just write the full thing, and then stage one of the editing is then reading through and deciding where the chapter points are.
I've talked to you about this. I find that incredible. I have to work in chapters because what on earth do you put in your spreadsheet for the graph if you don't do chapters? You know?
I don't have a spreadsheet. A pure pantser. Pure pantser.
I was going to say morning, Meriet, but it's afternoon now. You are a different. I love your jumper, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't wear this colour very often, but I thought I'd be I was a little bit cold, but also I thought I'd wear something a bit brighter. You are a different, dare I say, beast. You write primarily for children. Do tell us all about you and your writing, and how you view a saggy middle.
It's down there.
Yeah.
My name's Meriet, and Meriet Duncan, and I am. Sorry, I've got a terrible cold, so if I disappear to get some water, please don't take offence. I write for children. I've never written a book for adults, and I think I write for children because I'm a child at heart, and I've never really grown up. And it's interesting what you say, and my books are about honeybees. I'm a beekeeper, and I give talks to schools, brownies, guides, scouts. I give talks to WIs, U3As, anywhere, gardening clubs. I think most people have an interest in the honeybees, about the honeybees. What I never set out to be a writer. I was a photographer, as you can probably tell, for many years, but as a very dear friend said to me, I was put off writing through my school days because I now know I am dyspraxic and ADHD. Sorry, I have jumped on the bandwagon, but 2 of my children are diagnosed and I am, and it explains everything and how I lost my confidence through just, not having an attention span. I just irritated the teachers. I got into the best school in Hertfordshire because I'm very good at the 1% club, at solving the problem in front of you, but I have no memory. So I couldn't, revising for exams was a waste of time. I did it until eventually I saw that whether I did or I didn't, the result was the same. Anyway, so as a friend pointed out, when I wrote the book, and I said, "Oh, I've written a book," and she said, "Well, that doesn't surprise me." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, you've told stories with your photographs for years." And she said that it just would be a natural progression that you put it down onto paper. But I write, I don't know how to describe it. I don't have Excel sheets. There's nothing like that going on in my head. I have an idea and I simply let the pen take me. And now it's my fingers because I am a very fast typist. But my first book I wrote by hand, would you believe? And I do write it chapter by chapter. That fascinates me that you don't, Karl, that you don't write by chapters, because for me, as a dyspraxic person and finding actually reading quite difficult, I want that chapter to end on a hook. I want to know, oh my God, I'm getting tired. I've got to shut the book, but I want to see what happens tomorrow. And if there's, I couldn't write if I didn't leave that chapter on a hook and come back the next day as excited about writing it as I would be if I was reading it. Yeah. But maybe that's because I write for children. We all want them to be excited. I mean, whatever you're writing, you want if they're listening or they're reading your book, they don't want to put it down because they want to see what the next chapter is. So I would find that very difficult to do it your way. Mine is very much chapter driven. But I use, when I wrote my first book, I had the beginning and I had the end, and I had to get into a hive of bees because the first book is all about the beehive and how it works. And it's a very dark, very complex place, and I couldn't bring a child in there. And I stopped and I said to Robin, my husband, after however many weeks, months of writing, well, that was fun. That ain't going nowhere. It's a bit like you just said, David, about, just stopping. Somebody said that. And I stopped for about 6 months and I thought, well, I had a go. That was fun. And then I met another woman who was an author, and I dared to say, oh, I've had a go at writing a book. And she talked to me and she said, "Oh, don't give up. It will come. It will come. Just don't give up." And literally, I not then, but at some point, I just got a film in my head, and I wrote it like I was watching a Pixar movie. That's how I got them in there. How would these children see those bees in a movie? And that's how I did that.
Oh, yeah, thinking visually, because you're a
Visually.
photographer. Yeah,
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 that's how I
visually.
write.
Yes,
And
yes.
in fact, my previous editor, I've just changed because the editor who I used for the last two books died, sadly. He said, the trouble is with you, Meriet, you write like you talk too much. You're too descriptive. Leave something for the imagination. You don't have to say she said in a loud voice or she laughed. Leave that to the reader. They'll know that through the context. And he said, you've written a film script. That was his first complaint. You've written a film script. You need to get her in the garden, get her there, get her there. And yeah, so it's just interesting. Yeah, so I write visually. I visualize what I'm writing. It's as if I'm writing for a film.
Would you say that writing for children, the saggy middle is more of a problem? Because I'm thinking when I used to go to the Fringe a lot, the Edinburgh Fringe, and take shows up there and volunteer at a place. So I sat in a lot of children's shows, 5-year-olds, that sort of age. If they got bored, they got up and walked off.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They just wandered off and played in the corner or something if the play lost them. Whereas adults would sit there seething, I suppose, but at least still sit there.
I can't say it's harder because I've never tried to write an adult fiction book. But I just use my experience of a child and finding reading difficult. And my sister's an avid reader, even to this day. I listen to books on audio more than I read them. But as a child and a teenager, if it didn't grab me in the first sentence, I didn't want to know. So I'm constantly thinking that as I'm writing, and I put myself in the position as a child. But where I've given myself a difficult journey is I don't write for Key Stage 2 specifically. My first book was Key Stage 2. My second book is slightly older, and the third book is older again. So I'm having to think again. And at the moment, I'm in teenage world, which is a nightmare because I think all childhoods are very similar. Although this job, my grandchildren, they still want to do this similar things. Perhaps that's because my son's keeps it very old-fashioned, keeps them outside, keeps them away from the screen. But would a teenager of today enjoy what I'm writing? That's the question, and I'm very worried about that. If she's not interested in bees, that's
Do you think that where you're saying about them about making sure that they have the attention and that they keep reading and end on a hook? Do you not think that applies to adults now as much or almost as much because everyone's attention span has shortened so much? I mean, certainly I'm always aware. I didn't think about it being the same as writing for children because I don't do that, but I'm pretty paranoid about losing the reader's interest in case they just put it down and don't come back.
Exactly the same when you're giving a talk. You've got to keep the children engaged because they will start, and you can still see them misbehaving. And if one starts to misbehave, it's like the domino effect. But I do engage them. I don't know how I do it. I do. I think actually, no, I do know because I've listened to people who give talks to children. They dumb it down. Don't do that. They say, "Oh, I'm going to tell you about the honeybee," and the kids are like, don't dumb it down. My talk for the children is virtually the same as my talks for the adults. So, and I suppose that's always in my mind when I'm writing. Don't dumb it down. They're clever little things.
Well, children's the fact that everybody's interested and more than interested in the environment these days, and especially bees, because we know how important they are to us as a species. But I think that there should be education, children's books more than adults. We tend to read for entertainment. And yes, children read for entertainment, but there should be education in a children's book, and it's making it a fun way of them learning. I think when writing for children.
Shouldn't education be in adult books as well? It's one of
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Your 5 E's or something, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
4. I may come up with another one. Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to get you down to 3. That's what I'm
doing. Educate, emotion, entertain, escape. I have it on my list.
That's very good. I like that.
Yeah.
Does it have to be in that order, though?
No, not at all. Just how I've written. I think I've written it alphabetically, actually.
Would the escape be the drama?
It's anything that's an escape from either our traumatic lives or our dull lives. I think whatever you're reading you're reading romance if you're in between and ever hopeful of finding Mr. Darcy.
That takes us back to BB's point about fantasies being a bit more meandering, because you're escaping into a world that you then wander around in. So it doesn't need all the hooks and the exciting bodies every other page or anything like that. So yeah, maybe fantasies are allowed a saggy middle, or saggier middle than other genres.
I think historical as well, because by default, fantasy books and historical books tend to be bigger than anything else, because you've created a world. People want to know about the world, and they are more forgiving. And romances are going to be slower than James Bond-esque thrillers by the very definition, I think, of and so it's reader expectation, isn't it? You pick up a book of a certain genre, and the readers expect to have it as a certain way of reading.
I mean, one of the solutions to things getting saggy, a famous author whose name I really ought to know. I know it's not Ernest Hemingway, but it's somebody of that period. Sam Spade books, maybe. He said if things got boring, he just had a bloke walk into the room with a gun. You can't really do that in a romance, can you? Or historical.
That wouldn't work in a children's book.
No, it wouldn't work in a children's book as well. So yeah,
I'm gonna look it up, because I've got the name Dashiell Hammett in my.
Dashiell Hammett doesn't ring a bell with me, so I suspect that's not.
Okay.
Chandler, is it?
Chandler, yeah, Philip Chandler wrote.
Chandler. I bet you it's Chandler. Yeah, thank you.
I might be wrong. I don't know who did Sam Spade specifically.
No, that sounds right.
I know he did Philip Marlowe. I think
Raymond Chandler. Yeah, well done.
Well done.
There we go. Mystery solved.
So yeah, stick a person with a gun coming in, or I suppose in a children's book something exciting like I don't know, a bee predator turning up or something.
It's a hornet.
A hornet, yeah. It's the same sort of thing, isn't it? A hornet with a sting is the same as a man with a gun.
Well, I was told by Jane, your friend, that I needed more drama in this latest book, because she said it's all going a bit too well.
How old is Betsy in your current book? In the
16.
Book
she's 16, and I've incorporated the latest book is she's doing her natural history GCSE, and she goes off to Africa to stay with her godmother to see how honeybees help people in extreme poverty out of that situation, and helps them to put food on the table and educate their children, based on something I went there myself under the umbrella of Bees, the charity Bees for Development, and all the people that I met, and so I to make it interesting for 16-year-olds. Otherwise, as Jane said, it's just a travel log. It's very sweet, but it's just a travel log of your trip, what turned into a little bit of a sweet story. Bring some drama into it. So she's having her first ever crush, if you like, and she's
Oh,
dealing with that.
right. I think
That isn't the drama, but that gives hopefully the 16-year-olds or
Yeah.
14 to 16-year-olds a little bit of a, I know that feeling.
right.
There's the
There's
drama.
this thing in fiction, isn't there, that there has to be jeopardy,
That's it, jeopardy.
the readers have to see that things are going wrong or about to go wrong. And in fantasy, very often there is a journey where the group of friends meet different sets of people. So each chapter, in a way, has its own, this could go well, this could go really badly, jeopardy. Not that I necessarily write like that myself, because historical fantasy, I have a kind of longer perspective. But the overall story of the quest is punctuated by episodes of the unknown, um, and that, of course, keeps readers going. I think that they know in the next chapter there's going to be a different set of encounters.
I want to disagree slightly. I saw a program on television recently, The Other Bennett Sister, which was
Oh
about
yes, yeah, I've seen it.
Mary Bennett. Lovely series, loved it. It was what, 10 episodes, half-hour episodes?
Mm.
I've
And
watched it twice now.
oh,
and
really?
loved it
Oh, right.
so much.
Oh,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
the thing that struck me about it is some episodes ended on a cliffhanger, oh, things are going wrong. But some episodes ended on something happy. It came to a point where she was in a good place, it was happy, and you thought, oh, what a relief.
Yeah.
It's not endless jeopardy all the time.
But I agree with you, David. I think there's so much jeopardy and drama in our lives, whether you're adults or children. Give a bit of happiness as well. Let them look forward to it because, that's gone right for her. But yeah. And did you watch Small Profits?
Oh,
Yes, Small Profits.
Oh, love that so much.
That would be another one, wouldn't it? Where some of the endings were not cliffhangers as such, but they were just lovely, gentle moments.
And his other one, The Detectorists.
Yeah.
Oh, what a writer he is. My goodness.
we hate him already.
All the Detectorists after we watched Small Profits. That reminded us we hadn't seen Detectorists for a long time. We had to watch all the series on the iPad.
Brilliant, isn't it? It's brilliant. And I love it when you go back. If you love something so much, you go back and you watch it again and you see so many other things in there that you've missed the first time when you've and yeah.
It comes back to that escape, doesn't it? We've escaped into a world where the rules are slightly different from ours, where things can go well and not be jeopardy all the time.
Yeah. With my first book, a publisher said to me, I love the character, but she's a little bit nice. And I said, she's 6 or she's 7.
Right.
Can she not be nice?
Again,
She's going to grow up. In the second book, she's bullied by a teacher at school, which again, from personal experience, so it was very easy for me to write about that.
Children want
She had
role
jeopardy
models.
when she was 11, but at 6.
No, you want role models. Here is a girl who's nice. You should be nice too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The
Harry Potter was nice. It worked for him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Again, tension's going to vary for genre, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to have a level of tension in I mean, Pride and Prejudice. Will they get together? We know they're going to by the end of it, but then it's that kind of the quality of tension in a romance is, will they get together? What's stopping them? Whereas in a fantasy or epic, it's battles and journeys, and it's what level of importance is happening to the character. For a romance, the woman wants to find a Mr. Darcy by the end of it. In children's, they want the world to be all right, and the character, as we do in any kind of book, we want the character.
But that's the same thing, isn't it? That's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just the level of
in writing, art, photography, there's only one story. It's how you tell it. They've all got the beginning, the middle, and the end. There's only you know, we're all plagiarizing to a certain extent. When I was a photographer, my partner and I, we would always, if we got someone up, we thought, oh, they remind me of Elizabeth Taylor. Let's Google great pictures of Elizabeth Taylor, and we did make a storyboard out of it. But then we made it our own. And aren't we all doing that when we're writing?
Don't they say there's only 6 stories in the world or something?
Sorry?
Don't they say there are only 6 stories in the
Yeah.
world?
There are 3 stories in the world, and 2 of them are Cinderella.
But look how many musical notes there are on a piano.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how
It's interesting that 1 or 2 people have talked about the subtlety of the other Bennett girl, Small Profits, Detectoress. Very, very gentle. You know, but I think quite often it's a discerning audience that appreciates that. And publishers being very commercially oriented, wanting to please the masses, they think, well, you know, people's attention spans are very short these days. There must be tension, action in um in every chapter. Otherwise people are going to lose the plot, I suppose. And I'm not saying we should write like that, but I'm just saying that I think readers appreciating subtleties, like TV viewers appreciating subtleties and being prepared to go back and watch a series again to get more out of it and so on, is probably the exception rather than the rule.
It is something that independent publishing allows us. You know, you can publish things that are not going to sell everywhere, but may well over the whole world have, you know, a good 30,000 people who want to read it. So we can go for those niches where it's a subtler thing.
But even the subtle things, they do use tension. I mean, Small Profits uses tension. Tension is not necessarily the same as a man coming in with a gun, is it? You can put a lot of tension into what from the outside would appear to be not very much happening. So,
well, Caroline Bingley was Miss Bennet's tension, wasn't she? She was so brilliantly played. She was so awful, and every time you saw her walk in a room and glance over, you thought, oh no, it's going to go horribly wrong. She's going to say something awful. So it was in there.
Every other episode ended on a traditional cliffhanger of it's all gone wrong.
Yeah.
It was just so delightful that it didn't do that every time.
Yeah.
I'm going to
pick one of the worst books for everything going wrong. And it's one of my favorite books. And I went to see the latest film, and I'm really sorry I did. And that's Wuthering Heights. I mean, goodness, who was she? Where was her brain when she wrote that?
Unrelenting misery.
Just one trauma after another. Where did that come from? Wouldn't you love to get her here and say, well, you know, you were never married, you lived in that time. Well, how did you think up all those things? Wonder where her saggy middle came. The only disappointment of Wuthering Heights is, and all the films, is they've never ever finished the story. They finish, you know, when Kathy dies. And of course, that happens halfway through.
I'm going to ask Karl a random question, because I was thinking about chapter lengths. Because when I'm editing a book and when I'm writing a book, not so much, but when I go back through it, I always recommend chapters no more than 2,000 words, because then if you see, James Patterson has an average, I think his books are around 75,000 words, and on average he has 140 chapters. So that's 500 words a chapter on average, and he swaps between the detective and the villain. So you know you have to read 2 chapters to find out what happened in the chapter before last. Just wondering, Karl, when you split your novel up into, when you find your hooks or your reveals or your natural endings that then lead on to the following chapter, do you know roughly how long your chapters are? Whether chapter length makes a difference to, especially around the middle, makes a difference to the pace of it.
Yeah, and coming back to the earlier point of not writing in chapters and having a hook, my writing sessions I tend to end on a hook,
right?
So that I am intrigued when I go back in the next day. So I roughly know where the chapter points are, but I decide them for final when I've done my first read through. And my method is to try and keep the chapters relatively short. I don't know approximate word counts, but I keep them short and sweet. Because I try and write what I would read, and I do have problems around attention span, probably undiagnosed ADHD to a point. So if I have a book and I'm reading at night and I notice that the chapter goes on for pages, it puts me off. So I like shorter chapters. And that's kind of how I've always done it, except in Bobby, there is one mammoth chapter, the latest release, but that was only because it was one location, one scene, ongoing continuous scene, and it didn't really make sense to split it up.
No.
But other than that, chapters tend to be quite short, maybe half a dozen pages, maybe just over.
David, have you noticed over your career whether, because I think chapters have got shorter, or at least expectations have got shorter over time? Is that something you're conscious of?
I am conscious of different chapter lengths in different genres when I'm writing. I mean, I spread my Dear and Do Club, one I'm working on at the moment, that has 3 characters, Ernestine, Georgina, and Charlotte. And I do write the page count at the top of each subsection. Because I go like a machine, Ernestine, Georgina, Charlotte, Ernestine, Georgina, through it. And I want to make sure that one of the sisters isn't getting, has enough stage time on it. So I'm looking for chapters that go too short. If her section is only 2 pages long, and the next one's 2 pages, the next one you think, well, okay, that character's now dropping out of the story, aren't they? So I must do something about that.
Yeah. The first thing I do when I get a book in, somebody else's book, is catalogue the chapter lengths. And then with the longer ones, I highlight. So I have a word table, and I highlight the ones that are the longest lengths, and then put in the word count. So I just highlight it on the manuscript, and Word will tell me how long that is, and put it in. And then just have a note at the bottom, any chapter over X pages, normally about 6 pages, depending on the formatting, should be split. And then, but quite often I'll find when I go through it, there might be a natural break and then an asterisk or a blank line. I always add an asterisk, so it's obvious that it's a break, and then something else. So that's a good place then to have a chapter.
I mean, my Thinkosphere series, which is sort of science fiction police procedural, those chapter lengths are a lot longer.
Right.
I think it just depends on what you're writing. Terry Pratchett doesn't have chapter breaks. It's just one continuous 60,000 word, 90,000 word thing. And he did quite well. So
yes, exactly. And also, obviously, it depends on whether you have loads of descriptions. So Beth's fantasy would probably have more description than dialogue. And if you have a back and forth, that's going to take up a lot of pages. I think it's going to be quick.
It depends on your genre. I think it depends on the voice of the author for that particular thing. My voice, as it were, is very different depending which genre I'm writing in. I've certainly noticed that. There are reasons for it. I'm writing something set in Victorian times. I'm going to use the language that they would have used, sort of thing, more than, say, a near future SF. Where you're trying to get shorter sentences and there might be some technical stuff turning up. Of course, it's going to sound different. You hope your own voice comes through somewhat.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
There's Clarissa, there's I don't know if this is useful, but I go to a book club once a month, a readers book club, not for writers. But we go to a pub, and there's normally a table that ends up about 10 people on each table, so it's quite a big book club. And I was quite surprised that when they were all everyone was discussing on the table that I was on, and the book that they were discussing, the book that we'd read, and they were starting to talk about the kind of books they like generally, and several of them, I don't know how many, I would have a majority, I imagine like 7 or 8 of the people who were on that table all agreed that if they read a book where the chapter was too long, they put it down because they wanted to be able to finish a chapter and then go to bed. They would read before they went to bed, say, and they wanted to put it down. And said if it was too long, they might not pick it up again. Or if a chapter didn't end with a hook, they would be really, they might not pick that up. You know, it was quite brutal in some ways.
Yeah.
But it did make me think, well, this time I'm going to split my book up into shorter chapters, because it was almost panic-inducing.
I think we can all say that writing has made us different readers to the type of reader we were before we became writers.
But then none of them are writers.
But book clubs are going to be more critical. You should hear the things that people say that women say about when I do the WI talks. They're all women. They're very critical of Richard Osman and his Thursday murder clubs.
Actually,
they don't like them. Sorry, say again.
The writers, well, I mean, with the Salisbury writers, they seem to hate Richard Osman because he's famous to start with, and they think, how's he made all this money? But I'm sure he's a very good writer, but it's just like it doesn't seem fair to them. I'm kind of sitting on the fence, really. I thought, well, you know, good luck to
I'm quite surprised at that, because I mean, obviously, I'm jealous, so that would be my reason for not liking. But I thought it was a very good observation of life in a residential home.
Yeah, I mean, I think
less so the mystery. Yeah,
a journalist or something. And I think he probably has always written. It's just that he happened to be famous before he thought he'd write a novel.
Yeah.
So it seems a bit unfair to just.
That's the mistake we've all made. We should have been famous before we wrote our novel.
I like the whole backstory of how he came to write them, because it was actually in visiting his mom in a care home, wasn't it?
Was it?
Oh, that's right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's quite authentic in that sense.
Yeah. Meriet was saying earlier on that that she reads audiobooks, as do I, because my day job is editing, so I can't sit and read a novel without going, yeah, but you said on page 2 that such and such, or yeah, that wouldn't happen, or that, or you know, and whereas I enjoy audiobooks because I'm only half listening while I'm doing something else, so enough of it, and I'm not concentrating on the grammar or particular, other than just being entertained by the book. And I'm just thinking, because you Meriet write for children as well, and obviously the younger children are going to have their parents read out to them. So I think, and I'm sure we all read or have the computer read, or in my case, my Kindle Fire, read it to me. And I'm sure then if you've got a child and a parent reading it out, they're going, especially with a children's books are shorter, but with the middle, they're going, the voice of an audiobook and the parent's voice reading the book to the child is going to make it feel more lively than perhaps the writing is.
I'd love to have my books in audio, especially the first one, because I think the children would love it if I could just get Miriam Margolyes to do it, because I think she'd be amazing.
Get over your cold and do it yourself.
Oh no, I'm not. I when I listen to myself back, like if I listen to this recording, I can't bear just my conversation. I'm not a.
I didn't like my voice initially, but over the years I've got used to it. I quite fancy doing, especially to probably start with this one, serial data, although it's 100,000 words. So. But I think I don't have enough of an accent to, I think I could do an audiobook.
I could sing it. I'm a trained singer.
Do have it, yes, absolutely.
I just feel my voice is very dunk, 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 dunk. Yeah.
Who does like their own voice other than anyway. So do any of you listen to audiobooks? Any of the others?
I do, yes, I do. And my latest release is an audiobook as well.
Is it?
Which is lovely. Yeah, I found a voice actor through ACX, and he's now my guy, so he'll be doing the next projects as well. Yeah, but I do listen to audiobooks mainly for convenience. I like reading a physical book when I'm at home and of an evening. But I do travel around a lot as well, and I like to have an audiobook on in my headphones while I'm doing that as well. So yeah, and sometimes if you get a really famous actor doing it, it's quite pleasurable to listen to that person if you're a fan of their acting, do a book.
And do you read the genre that you write? Or do you read
Yes.
whatever appeals to you?
Yeah, typically, yeah. I tend to write what I would like to read and vice versa, read what I would like to sort of write and see. And yeah, my taste is very sort of singular in that sense.
David, you were going to say something.
Oh, I can't cope with audiobooks because I start to do something else and then I lose my place, as it were. I go, well, what did they just say then?
Right.
No, I can't do it.
No.
I can't either. Same reason.
Right. And do
Yeah,
you?
I don't listen to books. I listen to, sometimes if there's a radio dramatization of a book, I'll listen to that. But then you've got all the characters, it's different. But I haven't ever really listened to an audiobook, I don't think.
Right.
Jill, I've started going backwards and listening to children's books, and I listened to Anne of Green Gables last month. Oh, it was just joyful. I think whoever who was narrating it, she really took you there, and you felt you were with her. And Secret Garden. Just been revisiting books that I loved when I was a child, and yeah, it's been quite nice. But I do like to have the physical book. I don't know, there's something you just can't take away from holding that book in your hand, and just I do I don't not buy the books.
As I said about actors doing books, I was round my nieces and nephews a few years ago, and they were listening to one of the Harry Potter books as an audiobook and Audible, and it was a Stephen Fry narration, and it just sounded beautiful.
Yes, I think he's done all of them. I think somebody else has done them as well, but yes, he's done all 7. I think there are. Oh, lovely. Meriet, and then we'll work backwards, winding down. Do you listen to your own writing? Do you have your computer read back to you? Do you read it aloud yourself when you're going back?
I never knew you could do that.
Yes.
Wow.
Got it. Yes, on mine, if you highlight, well, wherever your cursor is, I have a Mac, so I do Command and Escape, and that will just carry on reading it. But I have a Kindle Fire, which is the cheapest one, and you can drag and drop or email to each Kindle has an email address. You can email it to your Kindle, and then you just press this play button and stop, and different speeds as well. I have it on 3 times speed, which sounds incredibly quick, but it's the speed I look at it on the screen.
I didn't know you could do that. I haven't got a Kindle. I've got a Mac too. Mac as well. That's not a Mac too, a Mac as well.
Yes.
And what I have done, if I've not been sure about a chapter, is record myself reading it and then listen to see if I would find that interesting. But as I say, I've got a very monotone. I try not to.
So you've already recorded your audiobook?
No, I haven't.
No, you have.
If I get stuck on a chapter.
Yeah, you have done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, well,
Get somebody else's opinion of your voice and then see.
Well, I listen to it and I think, has that lit my fire, if you like? Was that good enough? Where could I have improved on that? So I do sometimes record it on the phone and listen if I'm not too sure if it's yeah.
When I wrote plays, I had a program that would read out the different characters' lines in different accents and voices, and it was like hearing your play performed by a very bad group of Americans, and that really points out problems with the dialogue and things.
The thing about having something else read your work is that it will pick out words that are missing, or I say they're through, though, thought, trough, and tough.
Yeah.
we'll pick out those, because don't we, when we look at a screen, we read it as we know it should be, and invariably there'll be something.
I tend to have the computer narrate it for that exact reason. You can often get blinded by your work when you're just reading through it, and to hear it aloud, albeit in a Stephen Hawking type voice, can kind of point out errors that you've maybe not seen. So that tends to be a crucial stage in my editing, to be quite honest.
Jill, what do you do? Do you read it to yourself?
Yeah, I read things out loud to myself. Hopefully, I have been known to accidentally do it in my head out loud in a shop, but I try not to. I sort of catch myself very occasionally doing that if I think about it. But I try to do it when there's nobody here. If I don't record it, I just I read. If I'm not sure about how the dialogue works, particularly I'll read the dialogue, but all the parts or both parts of the dialogue. Yeah. And I don't know whether it works or not, but it kind of feels like it works for me. That I think, oh yeah, that's not quite right. But I suppose now, because I'm now doing the third book about the same couple, if you like, or the same characters, I know their voices in my head, so I can really look at the page and I can hear them saying it. So it's not so hard now, I suppose.
Does anybody visualize the characters?
Yeah.
Because for me, I cast the people
constantly.
When I'm, I've got a very young Demi Moore as the godmother, and it makes it easier for me to see how she'd talk. And in fact, I've got Miriam Margolis as the character Margaret. She's very intelligent and funny, but wise,
I work very visually. So one of the first things I will often do when a character hits my story is I will use the description of them to create an AI image, and I will often print it out and have it above my desk, and then I can kind of picture them and get into the zone of
same
what they're
thing,
about.
really, isn't it?
I find that really useful.
That's
I do charcoal drawings of the people, the main people, but then they don't end up, of course, looking like any particular actor or who's real. They just look like what they look like in my head.
It's always disappointing when you've read a really good book. Bridges of Madison County was a book I really loved, and then it's not cast how you think it should be, because you've put somebody in there, and in that one, Clint Eastwood was too vain. He cast himself as Robert Kincaid, and he was far too old to play the part. It was a shame, and it spoilt the film for me.
I used an acting website once and cast unknowns effectively. Just found people's pictures that seemed to fit and did that. So I didn't have Clint Eastwood in it, but I had somebody else who I didn't know.
Yeah, I just use Google Images, so I'll put woman 40, blonde hair, glasses, 5'10", and just click on Google it, and then there's an images tab.
But that's so interesting that we all fundamentally do the same thing. You cast your characters so you can write when you think about them.
I don't always visualize them though. Some characters I do, sometimes I don't. Couldn't tell you why. I do.
When you sort of run the video in your head, what do the characters look like if they don't look like anything? Do they have a kind of a blur as their face? Was it?
I suppose it depends on how major they are.
Yeah.
And whether you describe them, because Lee Child famously said that he didn't particularly describe Jack Reacher to any point. But then if he's towering over somebody, then he's not going to be Tom Cruise.
No.
You've mentioned that before, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the famous Daphne du Maurier book where the heroine, you never saw her. She was never described.
Right.
Was that Rebecca?
Yeah.
You mean
Mrs.
Well, yeah. Well, she was described, I think, but I don't know if she was described by whether she was. I think she might have been described as whether she had like the basic dark hair or something. I don't think the girl who
Mrs. Danvers sort of alluded to her beauty, but she was never. You never saw her.
No, but they
just knew that the young girl would come up to her.
If you're looking out of the eyes, if you're looking out of the eyes of your point of view character, you can't see that character.
No, they weren't. No, but you weren't. Rebecca was someone else in the story. She wasn't the person telling, but the second wife was telling the story, and you certainly don't get any description of her, I don't think, except that she was considered herself a bit kind of dowdy and nothing very much to look at. But you don't know if that was true. It might be just her subjective impression. They never described her really at all, I don't think.
Like merit of her voice.
Yeah, just
her voice. But yeah. aren't we our own worst critics?
Mm-hmm.
There is a point I'd like to make about saggy middles, at the risk of bringing it back to the topic.
Yeah.
But I've written a fantasy series, The Daughters of Igraine. It starts with Jackdaw's Choice, Crow's Law, and Raven's Way. And the first and the last books have a journey in them. And when I went through the editorial process with the first book, my editor and people were telling me this particular part was a saggy middle in the journey. Not so much when I came to do the Raven's Way. And the reason was that the characters in the first book were running away from an army that's invaded. So they were very reactive. They were just going here because there were people over there, then they went over there because... whereas in the third book, they have a mission. So their journey has a motive to it. They're active rather than reactive. And I wonder whether people have opinions on that, because I think maybe if you've got a saggy middle, it's because your main character hasn't got a mission, hasn't got a thing that they have to do. Because that was the solution to the first book, was to chop a chapter, actually, and give them more motive for what they wanted to do, so they became active.
Don't they say that the main character should have agency to some extent?
Yeah.
Whether it's not a mission, that maybe a mission is too much, but
agency is a better way to put it. Yeah, agency is a much better word. Yeah, and if you've got agency, they become active and they're trying to do something.
So they say. I mean,
But
I'm
it's
sure
like it's like Liam Neeson's character in Taken. His very early on, his daughter's kidnapped, so his motivations, because anything's about character motivation, isn't it? They have. There is a purpose for whatever they're doing, something that's happened to them, usually by somebody else. And so his mission is to get his daughter back. Beth, I mean, you write fantasy as well.
Yes. So I have. I mean, in Heroes and Traitors, the main character is very clear, and his mission is very clear quite early on that he has set himself. There are a number of other characters who, because of what they've been through in the Civil War, they have a very different idea about what peace means. And so it's not always in your face, but there is conflict, tension, because of these differing points of view, and people prepared to do different things to get what they want, rather than what might be a compromise position. In the second book, which I'm struggling to write at the moment, I'm not. I think one of the reasons why I've just written a few scenes is because the main character switches to the female protagonist from the first book, yeah, I mean, something very important is going to happen to her, but I'm not quite sure how I can make it clear from the outset what her mission is. It looks like her mission is to survive a difficulty, but in the end, she will actually overcome it completely. So I digress, but
that sounds like the character is reacting to the situation rather than having agency.
Yes, I mean, she does take agency eventually, But to start off with, yeah, she's in survival mode.
Maybe you could give her a subplot that gives her agency over the subplot, but then she then solves when the main plot becomes important or changes. I always think somebody gave advice about J.R. Tolkien writing Lord of the Rings, in that he doesn't give Frodo, take this ring and chuck it in Mount Doom as the mission, as it were. He says, take this ring to Rivendell. It's a smaller thing to solve before the bigger picture turns up.
Do you think also, though, you can have, I mean, there are some quite famous, well, probably Rebecca is one of them, where you have someone who doesn't appear to have any agency to start with, but the whole building of that person's character and the whole process that they go through in the novel is to get them to the point where they think, no, I'm going to take control of my own life here. It's certainly how it works in Rebecca, and I think that's it's almost a trope, isn't it? So you can have someone who, I think people will stick with it if someone hasn't got agency to start with, but they can see the way the plot is going or where the character is going.
I think it's harder to write.
But they sort of get invested in, is this person going to find themselves in the end? Is it going to be all right, or are they going to be a victim forever? So you can kind of, I suppose, give them progress to an extent that the reader will stick with it and sort of trust that they're going to find their way through it all. Because you've got to give a character a problem. It can as easily, I suppose, be that problem as any other one.
Yes, I mean, the problem is quite clear from the first scene, but the solution is not something she immediately grasps.
So that's your saggy middle.
Yeah. Yes. Saggy beginning.
So how would you how would you go about resolving that issue, that difficulty?
Well, I think what's stopping me is that I haven't at the moment got away from my historical research and context. I have set her, based her on Catherine the Great, and yeah, so what really happened to Catherine the Great is dominating my head. And of course, the main thing when you have historical fantasy is you start with the history and then you turn it upside down and inside out. So I've got to get to that stage. She didn't set out to be Empress of Russia, but
no.
She got there in the end.
Do you think people worry too much about a first draft? Because Karl was saying earlier on that he does battle, certainly when he gets to a certain point, he does battle, and then maybe if you know, because I'm David is a puzzler. I've become a plantzer, where I started off with no idea what I was going to do, but the more I write, the more I think, and the less I plan, the more stuck I get as I go along, and find that at least if I have a page of some kind of start, maybe a bit of a middle, and perhaps this could be the ending or different endings as a possibility.
Milestones along the way.
Yes, yeah, that I have something to aim towards. But I think a lot of writers, especially if they haven't done very much, do worry about the first draft more so than they need to, I think. And it does take the fun out of it.
Yes, you're always told, aren't you, as soon as you've finished your first draft, forget any aspirations you have at that point. You have to put it to one side and leave it to stew, because when you come back to it after a period of time, you'll realise it's rubbish and it's got to be redone again and again.
I think also when you come back to it, you'll find bits that are quite good that you thought were awful. I think writers at some stages in the writing process are the worst judges of whether it's good or not. We tend to alternate between, oh, this is the greatest thing ever written, to, oh, this is complete rubbish. And none of it's true. It's somewhere.
You go back and you can look at it and think, why on earth did I get rid of that? Which is what you're saying. That actually was quite good. But I also think I am guilty, and I'm sure you or will you all nod your head of stop rereading it, stop it, because I can change just a sentence 3 times if I'll go back and read it, and then like I talk, I don't wait till I get to the full stop. I think, well, that doesn't make sense. And I'll retype it, and then I'll think, oh, actually it did if I got to the full stop.
I could really underline that and talk about perseverance as well, which was a topic that Karl brought up ages ago. In that my friend and I have just published our comic fantasy novel that we've been writing for 42 years. And the mistake we made was we started to rewrite the first 4 chapters before finishing it. That was just fatal to it. And we rewrote these 4 chapters, the prologue particularly, over and over again. Each time, slightly better. And then when we got to draft 26 or something, I went back and found an earlier version, and it had so much more life in it. Not being technically as good, but it was full of life, and you're thinking, we've just ripped the life out of it. The advice is finish the first draft, no matter how dreadful you think it is. Just finish it and then go back to it.
Absolutely. I have a friend who'd spend a week on a paragraph. It just drive me nuts.
No, I can relate to your friend because not necessarily a paragraph, but sometimes a whole chapter has taken me a couple of weeks because I'll rewrite it and I'll rethink it and and sometimes my husband will say, just stop, because you'll always find something you can improve.
I think
the advice I've found is stick a note in, big red letters saying, this chapter is rubbish, rewrite it later, and then keep going. Because then often when you go back, it's not as bad as you thought it was, or it's a fix. Or you get to the end and you realise the whole chapter was irrelevant. You cut it. So what's the point of perfecting a chapter if it's just going to get chopped?
And especially if it takes the joy out of it. Because Meriet, you said you'd never planned to be a writer.
No.
And so I had an email overnight from a chap. He was my 378th, I think, 40 something author spotlight back in the day. And he said that he'd written a novel. It had been, I think, traditionally published, and then the publisher went under, and he didn't do anything with it. Hasn't written anything since. So would I please remove the spotlight, which I did, because every now and then somebody would find the spotlight mentioned online and ask him about it, and he felt quite awkward the fact that the novel didn't exist anymore. So asked me to pull it, which I did. And I said, you're the fourth person in, and I was just looking when you were talking earlier on. I had, I think, 415 author spotlights and just over 700, about 712 interviews on my blog. And in all that time, with all those people, and there's some overlap between the 700 and something and 400 and something, but about 1,000 authors that I've interviewed in some form over the years, and 4 have stopped writing and wanted me to pull. There may be others who have stopped writing, but certainly 4 now who've asked me to pull their interviews because they don't want anything writing related online anymore. And I always think it's a shame, but we have to enjoy what we're doing. And I think going over and over and over and over something, and as David said, I had this, I think it was after Jessica, out with a publisher, and he took ages to come back to me, and it was somebody I'd met, and he took weeks, if not months, to come back to me. And he said he was on the fence debating whether he wanted to publish it or not, because he really liked it but felt it had been over edited. It had I'd been through it so many times that I'd stripped the life out of it almost.
Well, there you go.
With that, I then went back through it and saw that at the time he was right.
Could you not have found an earlier draft?
Oh, I do. I keep lots of. I have version 1.0 and 1.1 and 1.17 and so on. So I do.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Because that would be data to go in a spreadsheet, no problem.
Well, that's true. My nerdy Excel spreadsheet.
It's very hard though not to. It's very hard to know when you're over editing. Well, certainly I suppose because every time you go away from something for 3 days, you come back and find something that wasn't. You thought something was finished, then you find it wasn't because of whatever. And so it's almost impossible. I find to know whether you are actually improving it or whether it was all right previously.
That's the point of art, isn't it?
Well, yeah, never finished, only abandoned.
Yes, only abandoned.
Yeah.
I'm going through my proof copy of a book now at the moment, and I'm changing things. But when I get to the computer to type it up, I'll probably change it back again.
Mm.
You could have a sentence and you can flip it the other way around, and then you go, oh, it doesn't almost flip a coin.
When I was a photographer, when I very first started out, I used to print all my own stuff, and I would spend hours in the darkroom. And I am a perfectionist. I mean, I like the house is tidy. I'm a very tidy person. Probably because my mind is so chaotic. I've got to see tidiness in front of me. And I can remember being in the dark. Sorry, in the dark room. Till about 2 a.m, trying to get this particular thing right, and it's very different obviously to Photoshop, which is so easy. And when I came back and looked at it in the morning, actually there was no difference. I'd got about 10 pictures and I thought, what was I trying to correct? And that could be the same with writing. That actually it was okay in the first place. Leave it now, walk away.
Yeah,
it's a question of balance, isn't it? I do know of a writer who writes a first draft and doesn't do any editing at all. And you're thinking, well, that's why it's shite, isn't it?
I don't enjoy editing my own. I compare novels to certainly novels to having. I haven't had children. I've had fur children, but I compare it to having children where you've looked after them until they're ready to go to university, and then you let them go and hope that they're going to be all right, that people will read them and enjoy them and leave nice reviews, and that your book will survive to have a happy life.
That's so true. I remember the first book, I always said it was like when it arrived, it was like having a baby. You'd held on to that for 9 months, nobody else knew it, and then you put it out there, and are people going to like it and love it as much as you? That's absolutely the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you, everybody. It's been. I knew we'd go off at tangents, and I'm the not the world's worst at going off at tangents, but I'm very capable of doing that. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We only went off on a tangent in the Saggy middle.
That's very true. That's very true.
We came to talk about the thing that we were supposed to be talking about.
Yes, David brought us back. No, thank you, everybody. It's been lovely. See you again soon.
Yes,
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.